they've now feel the need to clarify when a doctor can step in and intervene before a woman bleeds out. Excuse me, they should learn that in medical school. The politicians should never have to tell them that. I never want to go to a doctor that's getting their medical advice from a politician. Thank you.
Welcome to Seriously, the podcast that dives into the baffling.
We can't send them to a prison where there's animals, where there's livestock.
The ridiculous.
Like omelets better than sex.
And downright unbelievable political climate in red states like Louisiana.
So we can't go there. There are no vegan jails.
Seriously. Seriously.
We're really excited to welcome to the podcast Hadley Duvall, who's from Kentucky and is one of the most well-known abortion rights activists in the country right now. But this wasn't always her path. After the fall of Roe, Hadley shared her story on social media and it went viral. And then in 2023, she was asked by Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear if she'd film an ad against his opponent in the election. We're going to talk to her about that. And that ad really catapulted her to her story to a national audience. Since then, she's really become one of the most effective messengers on this issue and has been recognized as Kentucky honoree for USA Today's Woman of the Year, and also as one of the Women of the Year by Glamour magazine, along with our friend Caitlin Joshua. So Hadley, we are so excited that you agreed to be on our baby podcast. Thank you and welcome.
Yes, thanks so much, Hadley, for being here. We're really excited to talk to you. I'm from Kentucky. I'm wearing my Kentucky Wildcats.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Hey, I live in Lexington, so.
Well, I hail from Louisville originally, but my family is all
Okay.
big time Kentucky fans. And actually much of my family is still in Kentucky, so I follow what's going on there like relatively closely. So yeah, you've been on my radar and I've been very impressed by you and your work for a long time.
Thank you.
So we wanted to start out by asking you about when I remember seeing you and hearing about you first was when you ran an ad with and for Governor Beshear, Andy Beshear, when he was running for re-election against Daniel Cameron, who was he is, I guess, still, he's not in office, but a hard right politician.
Oh, he's running.
Oh, he is?
He's
Oh my
running
God.
for Mitch McConnell's Senate seat.
Oh, of course, he's his protege. Yeah. Well, we have like a real similar Daniel Cameron here. He's now our governor.
Yeah.
He used to be our attorney general. They're buds. You know, Kentucky and Louisiana have a bunch in common, one in politics and I think in culture too. John Bel Edwards was able to get elected here statewide as a Democrat, as was Andy Beshear there. I'm a much bigger fan of Andy Beshear than I am of John Bel, but I won't spend time bitching about our former governor. So anyway, if you can just maybe start out by telling us a little bit about your personal story and how you came to run that incredibly powerful ad that I think many people think was a real game changer and really helped to get Governor Beshear reelected.
First, thank you all so much. I'm so excited to be here and honored to be a part of y'all's podcast. And honestly, I did not ever see myself walking into politics. That is for sure. I actually steered quite clear of it before all of this. Like, I think a lot of people, especially my generation and my age, I just turned 23 last week. And it has been very amazing, but I would not be here had it not been for Governor Beshear. And I had made a post when Roe fell, and it, got a lot of attention, but it still sat for about a year. And then I heard from the governor's office wanting me to ultimately do an ad. He was running for re-election and he wanted to run on reproductive rights. I thought that was a pretty bold move for, somebody in Kentucky. And I was just like, sign me up. Absolutely. The phone call was like 4.5 minutes. We knew where we were going to be filming, when we were going to be filming. I didn't even like call my mom or anything. I was just like, sign me up. I'm in there. And with that, it took off. So many people reacted so well to it, and it did better than we even expected it to, honestly. The numbers were crazy. And with that came the Biden administration reaching out to me, and it just continued to grow. And then Harris was at the top of the ticket. Momentum was going, it was honestly like a snowball. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it ended up being such a blessing. It catapulted my life to where I am now.
Yeah, no, it was, I'm sure it was and has been a whirlwind. But it's also just been, we talk a lot in the advocacy community about people sharing personal stories and how powerful they are. But like sometimes I think I'm just kind of like, whatever, I mean, I think I sort of lose sight of how true that is. I'm a lawyer. I'm like, want to be like hammering about like, this is unconstitutional and this is what the data shows and all sorts of stuff like that, which has a real place. But I think that, people hearing about people's real lives is really important. So what has that, I mean, your story is very personal. I mean, it's about you being raped when you were a child. So I don't know, how has that been for you? It's incredibly brave. It's brave for people to share any sort of personal stories about pregnancy, abortion, rape, all of those things. But this has like, a lot of those elements to it. How has that been for you?
I would be lying, if I said it's been a walk in the park. I get tons of hate. I get not only do I get hate, my mom gets hate. My siblings, it's not just me, it's my family. I've opened my family up to a lot. However, none of them have ever made me feel like that has burdened them. And I not all of my family agrees with me on the political spectrum, but nobody has ever made me feel like what I'm doing has, put an effect on them personally. And I think that makes a huge difference. But, I was also a server in a very small town when all of this started. I would be at the college bars and my ad would come on, like so embarrassing. Um, and I would have people recognize me at my tables, and I would, be like, this is gonna go really well or really bad. And I had both. I had, some people who refused to be served by me and wouldn't tip me and things like that. And, it hurts. But then I have people messaging me with the love and, saying that I've helped them speak about their story, or, I've changed their father's mind or their grandfather's mind. And it's all worth it. It really is. I have never felt regret. I have never felt like, I wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish I wouldn't have got to, the presidential platform. That was a big thing for me. Was a lot of people told me that, they were really supportive with Governor Bashir, and then it went to the presidential level, and it was like, oh, like that's, maybe you should be careful, or that's a lot, or, just say you don't support it. And it still was a no-brainer for me. But, you do open yourself up to a lot. People think from a 30-second ad, they know my entire story. And I would say that's been the hardest part, is seeing people create their own narrative of it. But I mean, people do their research, they find things, they find the records, all the legal stuff is there. It's all there. You can prove it all. So
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, please, these people,
right.
people on the other side. Yeah. I mean, remember when there was the child in Ohio, the 10-year-old child who was raped like right after Dobbs, and then this whole media narrative that it was fake.
Yeah.
Which then very quickly it turned out that it was not fake at all. Yeah.
Like like this stuff happens, and it's only gonna be brought to the light more now, and people are gonna see how bad it really is. Like these children need our help.
Yeah. we talked to a representative here, Representative Delisha Boyd, recently. She has a personal story that's a little bit different, but it's also very powerful. And we were talking about that, you know, even in states like Louisiana and Kentucky, what we've found is that, you know, people don't think that this is government's role, you know, to be telling people that they can't have abortions no matter what, even if it's not what they would do. And I think that's a lot of why, you know, your story, I think, really puts people in the shoes of like, what if that were me? What if that were my daughter? What if that were my granddaughter? Or what if it was just like our neighbor's fucking daughter? You know, like
Right.
that would we think that our neighbor's fucking daughter like has to have a child when she's a child and she's been raped? And I think a lot of that is what was also really helpful in defeating the constitutional amendment in Kentucky shortly after Roe that would have enshrined in the Constitution that there is no right to an abortion, which, spoiler alert, we do have in Louisiana. I think we're the only state that has that bullshit, but they were
Mhm.
smart enough to do it earlier on.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, we got connected to you through our friend Caitlin Joshua, and Caitlin has been so brave and really taken this issue on and been an incredible activist here in Louisiana, but of course also nationwide. And then we also talked to Amanda Zorowski, and I know that the three of you really got to know each other by being involved in the campaign. So I'd be interested to know what it's been like to sort of form that sisterhood of support, and how important that's been for you. And yeah, but I can't imagine being elevated to a national presidential campaign and sharing such a deeply personal story. But there were several of you doing that together. So I'd love to hear about how that experience was.
Honestly, it has been the life raft that I've needed to get through, you know, being not only in this space, but being the youngest. You know, I'm everybody's baby sister, and that's exactly how they treat me. And I'm so blessed to have met them, because I truly wouldn't be able to do the things that I do without the community. And the Harris campaign was really, really good about keeping us together and doing events together and us meeting people and forming that community, knowing that we had people. And I think that was, you know, so important. And always, you know, it was Kamala's goal for all of us to feel supported, whether that was be with another storyteller, we could bring us somebody if we wanted that support. And that's really what it's all about. Like, we have days where we're burnt out, but I know the sisterhood that I have and the community that I have with so many individuals that I have now met along the way, they're working. And I can rest knowing that they're working, and they can rest knowing that I'm working. And that is, you know, we lean on each other. We have these little wins in different states. And like, we all have been to Wisconsin, you know, they had a pretty, you know, decent
Yeah.
win and keeping that seed. And that's really important. And just, you know, knowing that I feel impacted by that now, because I have sat with people who live in Wisconsin, and I have gone there boots on the ground and fought for reproductive rights and for, you know, just a better America in general with these people. It's like, this is our celebration, even though our legislative session just ended here in Kentucky and it did nothing for us.
So we are just about to start. It's kind of like the horse racing season. When horse racing season ends in Kentucky, it starts in Louisiana. Like literally Thanksgiving
Okay.
Day. Thanksgiving Day is closed. This is all the inside baseball stuff for all our Kentucky listeners, which actually, since I'm from there, of our like 2 listeners, then like 2 of them are from Kentucky.
we
Anyway.
love the good parts of Kentucky.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, when the last day at Churchill, closing day at Churchill is Thanksgiving Day, that's opening day at the track here.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's the same with the legislature. basically. And it's going to be horrible here. I mean, I have like no illusions about that. Although we don't know, we're still waiting to get a lot of the bills. They'll be coming out this week. Although Michelle probably has been just like not sending them all to me to not give me like a panic attack so far. But
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
good, don't send them. I have a trial coming up anyway. But I know that last year and this year, then Senator Yates from Louisville proposed a bill called Hadley's Law, that would have added rape and incest exceptions to the full ban in Kentucky, as well as some other really good elements, like some strong maternal health exceptions that are much better than the exceptions that we currently have in Louisiana, and that ultimately passed in Kentucky, but we'll get there in a minute. So can you just tell us about, how did you get involved with trying to pass that law, and what has your experience been like at the Kentucky legislature, either, talking to folks behind the scenes or talking to the media? I'm just really interested to hear what that's been like from you, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, so full transparency with the whole process, I was not very educated on at first. So while they are drafting the bill, I am like self-teaching, like figuring out the process and learning and watching, because I fully trust Senator Yates to be, in favor of the right things. And he wasn't not doing that just for me. Like, he is a father of 2 girls, and he has many, many stories of many girls and women who he has helped. But it was, such an honor for him to name it Hadley's Law. That was so special. And I got to speak a couple of times for it. And that was surreal. That was actually my first time ever standing up and speaking, was for Hadley's Law. And it was surreal. Now, on the other side, it was also very heartbreaking, because it was never even listened to. It was never heard. For some reason, I guess I was a little naive, a little girl just thinking, you have little girls in your life, like, just listen to me, like, I can get through to you. So I feel, that really turned me to like, okay, like, I tried to be nice, I tried to be cute. Let's actually get some shit done. And that's when I was like, I'm going presidential level, and I'm not stopping. Never did I ever think that would like lead me to the DNC, and then really like seeing a whole lot of political things up front, and then coming full circle back around to this legislative session, and putting out Hadley's Law out there, and again didn't even move. And it just shows that the people in office are not here to listen. They're here to go by their, pre-made agenda, checked off by their king that they have in the White House right now. And it enrages me, because I don't want more people in Kentucky to have to get in these bad situations for people to open their eyes. But that's where the lawmakers are pushing us, and I just hate it. It's heartbreaking.
We have a friend who in Louisiana has also gone to the legislature every year, and her story is also really, really, really heartbreaking. She was assaulted by her grandparents when she was a child, and it lasted for years and years.
Yeah.
And for us, the ones that are sort of, doing all the policy stuff, we want to keep bringing the bill back every single year, but it's really challenging for us, because we're like, can we keep asking people to come and relive their trauma in front of this committee of people who are not even listening, and they have no intention of giving this a fair hearing, of actually voting, on it, letting the entire legislature debate it. And it is very difficult. And so our friend Audrey, and we should get Audrey on the podcast at some point, Ellie, mental note. But our friend Audrey is like, no, I will come back every time because she is just so every session she gets more and more dug in and pissed off and in fighting position. But that's not necessarily the case for everyone. And it is very, very difficult to keep sharing your story over and over and over again. So I just want to acknowledge that. And yeah, in these red states, man, I mean, when we hear from legislators, and I'm sure you probably did too. Well, I do want to support this, but you know,
This is what the people want, or,
right.
my hands are tied on it. Like, no,
Right.
they're actually not at all.
What's happening here, I guess, first to say is that they are giving the bills a committee hearing. It's just like a fucking bullshit here. It's set up to fail. So we have where they're sending them to a committee where it's a foregone conclusion that they will fail. So our folks like Audrey and others and Caitlin coming, for the maternal health exceptions, all of those folks come share their story, and legislators are leaving the room, they're asking rude questions. There's just a lot of disrespect, and they've heard from their bosses already to vote the bills down no matter what. So that's how they're preventing our bills from getting a real hearing on the floor. In Kentucky, what they were doing, from what I've seen, is that they're not even like scheduling them for committee. Like they're not even assigning them to a committee.
They're
Like the
just
step.
stalling.
Yeah. Which I read that I mean, I guess before this happened last year with Senator Yates's bill, I don't think that it had ever happened before, that like a bill had just like that they just wouldn't even move it. That's a different kind of disrespect, obviously, that you must have felt, and anybody else who, who is wanting or willing to come. Like we see people get disrespected when they are telling their story. This is like being like, we're not even gonna like give you that chance. So I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about that. And then also, to me, then the tactic is that they know that if these bills come to the floor, then people are going to feel like they have to vote for them, and the powers that be want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Them keeping the bill off the floor and away from a vote is
Yeah.
their way of keeping people, lawmakers, from having to say, yes, I believe that this rape survivor should have to do this, or no, I believe that this should be her choice.
Right.
And that hurts people. Election years are always around us, and it doesn't matter, at this point, what you try to tell them. They, like, Senator Yates had, I want to say, 26 bills or something like that total last legislative session. All of them passed except for one.
And all of them got hearings, presumably, except for one. Interesting.
And when we had a press conference to let the people know that this is what they decided to do, President Stivers of the Senate here in Kentucky decided to say it's because we didn't ask him to assign it to a committee. Like we've ever
Because
had to ask. Like, it's filed, assign it. You need me to tell you the process? I'm sorry, excuse me. Didn't realize I was getting paid.
Well, that's really funny because I think what advocates should do next year is have, a 10,000 people formally ask for the bill to be scheduled, and then
people were calling
no
and leaving messages every day. They got to the point to where assistants and interns were answering the phone, and they were not taking any more messages on Hadley's Law.
That's amazing. And also you should record someone saying, hello, this is so and so's
Yeah, like
yes,
like people I don't even know. Like, it was crazy. And it's, it just shows that people are fighting against our rights, but there are so many people out there fighting for our rights. And I do believe at the end of the day, at the end of this long ass day, we will prevail. I
I
do
agree.
I do think that it's going to be a long road, and we're going to face things like burnout, and that's when your community comes in, that's when your sisterhoods come in. And we all go through things personally and check in on each other when things go on, and it's like you have to have your people, especially whether you're in this or not, because you're going to be affected sooner or later, and then you're probably going to get on the political train like all of us. And at that point, like, you're really going to need your people. And I just hope that, as I'm the same way, like, have that fire, like, I'll show up every single day if that's what it takes. But when I go home, I'm still going to lean on my people. And that's how I can come back every single day. And so that's why, we feel the disrespect, and, I take it. And because I think that this is a long game, and we'll get to
Yeah,
the end eventually.
It is a
totally
lot.
get that. And I mean, this is Ellie and I've been doing this. We started this organization almost 10 years ago. And if we didn't have each other, we would have burned out a long time ago. Yeah, and it is a lot of disappointment and a lot of anger, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to start this podcast, so we could talk shit about it.
That's right.
Yes, you're venting with the world. I love it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I guess the last thing but I mean, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And all the people calling, I mean, that's just such evidence of this. I mean, the reason I think that these politicians do not want these bills to get to the floor so that Republicans have to give up or down votes on, do you give a shit if people are dying for pregnancy complications? Do you give a shit if children who are being raped have to carry pregnancies to term, up or down? Then they don't want to vote on that because the the constitutional ballot initiative in Kentucky showed voters are in favor of at a minimum in favor of exceptions. And in Louisiana, we did statewide polling here with a Republican pollster, and it was, I mean, the results were overwhelming after Roe about where public opinion is on this. But so the last thing I wanted to ask you about was, we talked briefly before we started recording that at the end of the Kentucky legislative session, there was like a bunch of like jumbling last minute bullshit for then the Republicans to do something on the Kentucky abortion ban, which, just so people know, was up until this session, the only exception was for the life of the mother. So if you can just talk, it's a sort of a complicated bill, or I mean, it's maybe not complicated. The process that it went down was like really fast and not very transparent, as I understand it. And I think you guys now have a law that's more kind of like the bullshit that we have, which is like there are some health exceptions, but they're not great and they're not really in medical terminology. But I find it interesting that Republicans thought that they did have to do something, but also I'm sort of skeptical that, of course, they had some real good options on the table, like the bill that we've been talking about, that they decided to just not even give a hearing to, and instead like jumble around some crap at the end. So what's your take on what happened, both substantively and in terms of the political maneuvering on that?
So, it was very sneaky. And the fact that lawmakers who swore up and down our trigger ban was clear, that our abortion law was clear, it had no complications to it, nobody was confused, doctors knew what they could do, they knew their limitations, they knew. Well, now it needs to be clarified. Last hour of the night, it's tacked on to another bill. And That's what I don't like, because they're not even related. They are two, like, it's all totally different topics. It's literally just a bunch of things jumbled together to say, let's sneak this past. It looks good, whatever. My biggest thing is it doesn't add exceptions for rape or incest.
Right.
And to clarify, I am 100% for choice. Like, there should be no ban. However, I know that in a red state like Kentucky, I have to meet politicians and the people where they're at, where their roots are at, and start changing minds very slowly.
Right.
And I've caught a little bit of hate for that strategy from some organizations in Kentucky. And I don't.
You're talking about progressive organizations, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would do.
We're not
So
surprised.
We made, with Michelle and I, with Lift Louisiana, we made a real conscious decision that we were going to go with an incremental approach to building back, as you were talking about. Yeah,
Yes.
I agree. If you are someone who understands strategy and tactics, which we do, we're losing all the time, but we do understand strategy and tactics.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's because we evaluate our losses.
Yes. Yeah. So I get it. I mean, principles are important, and it's real easy to say that shit when you're in a blue state too, that like doesn't have an abortion ban.
Exactly.
But yeah, so sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I know.
No, you're fine.
Exactly. We know where you're coming from, and we agree with you that like we don't live in a perfect world, folks. Like, obviously our values are that like this is not anyone's business for any reason.
Right.
But that's not the world that we're working in.
Right. Yeah. And so that's just like my biggest thing. Like, that's why I feel it's so necessary to at least start with some exceptions. So that's my biggest issue with that. Then it's the fact that they've now feel the need to clarify when a doctor can step in and intervene before a woman bleeds out. Excuse me, they should learn that in medical school. The politicians should never have to tell them that. I never want to go to a doctor that's getting their medical advice from a politician. Thank you. Like that, there's nothing pro-life. There is nothing pro-family about this bill. This bill was pro-election year agenda for these lawmakers. And I hate to be like that, but that's what it is, It is their extremism that brought us to where we are here in Kentucky. They are not going to be the ones to clarify us out of this mess that we're in. And I'm not going to be fooled by it. Governor Beshear was not fooled by it. He vetoed it. They did overrule his veto, unfortunately. So it's fine. It's just like, I feel like I'm just lacing the boxing gloves back up a little bit tighter. It's just like, y'all are going to see why are we having to clarify something that y'all said was clear.
I mean, I will not get into all of it, but I am convinced that politicians in Louisiana and Kentucky are talking. I for sure think that they were when there was, when Jeff Landry was in the AG's office and Daniel Cameron was in that. There's so many similarities in terms of like the messaging. We had I was heavily involved in the litigation here about our trigger ban, where their arguments were about how clear it is.
It makes all this sense. And now here we are in 2025, and it didn't make sense, like we said.
Well, and the problem is too, I can tell you, a ban that only applies to the life of the mother is extremely problematic. But what you have now is similar to what we have, which is like the farthest thing from clear. That's like the whole fucking problem with it, is that like, it's like I'm talking to doctors all the time and have been for these past, now almost 3 years about what about this? What about this? Does this count? How close to death does somebody have to be? That still is the,
That's the question of the hour.
Yeah. So I guess the last thing, unless Michelle, you have any other questions, but just wanted to ask you, Hadley, if you have any advice for anybody who, any, advocate who might be thinking about sharing their personal story, or somebody young who just wants to get involved, any sort of advice or words of encouragement?
You do not have to be what you think is smart enough or rich enough or um hurt enough. You don't have to have a traumatic story to care or to get involved. You don't have to be violated to have your rights first. And I think that's just very important to know. Don't feel like you're helpless if you have not been through anything, or if you just got an abortion because that just was what you needed at that time in your life. Like, that's your right. You still have a story. It still helped you in some sort of way. You've worked through whatever that journey was like for you. And everyone's is different. And I think it's very important to always share, whether it's with your friends at a table, or it's on a national stage at a Democratic convention, like whatever suits you best. No, but seriously, like, you belong at every table you want to be at. And if they won't make room for you, make your own room or make your own table, because you will build relationships along the way. Some of my closest family is complete opposite. Well, not closest family anymore, but they were my close family. Complete opposite side of the political spectrum of me, but I had to do things for me. Little me went through a lot, and she went through all that by herself. So that's what this is all about, is, if she can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, then you can do it, because I'm a first generation college student. My mother is a recovering addict. I have a non-binary sibling. I know about a lot more than just, the abuse. Life goes on no matter what's going on, no matter what's happening. And it's just really important that you find your truth and your passion, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be political. Just if you have something that is really heavy on your heart, like, take that leap of faith, because you never know. Like, I would have never dreamed to be here in 2025. And I'm just very honored that Governor Bashir took a chance on me. And there's someone out there willing to take a chance on you if that's what you want.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Seriously is presented by Lift Louisiana, a nonprofit organization advocating for reproductive health rights and justice.